Today in CCA 2, in this episode, we are talking about something else, more regarding the camera equipments, camera accessories, and all these things. And few things I want to mention again. When we talked about this camera equipments and accessories, you know, um, we are talking about poetry, philosophy, and brush camera. So aesthetics and all these things, poetry, philosophy, brush, art, camera, and how you can achieve that. So when we talk about the camera, the technology, the devices, the accessories, the equipments, those things you can buy, those things you can play with, those things you can learn from experimenting with them, how you will use them to achieve what you want to achieve, so you can play with all these things. When you go through any session or class of photography or cinematography, you will see that people will tell you the basic techniques, people will tell you the basic things. This is an accessory and this is how you can use it. This is a filter and this is how you can use it. This is a camera, these modes this camera is having, and this is how you can use it. These are the features available, these are the things you can play with. People will tell you all these things. Technical requirements, technical features you can play with. But what we are talking about at Candid Cinematography Adda, this is more practical, this is more, application oriented. So suppose you have a script and you want to make a movie out of that script, and you are demanding a particular kind of cinematography as a director or as a producer. And when the team is coming, they are giving their great performances, and maybe you are giving them hints, or you are telling them how it is going to look like when the film is complete. So cinematographer is also motivated because that person is working a lot to make it happen. You have an idea and that person is giving you the visual representation of it. So you have the physical space, you have the visual space, and how you are using these devices, accessories, and equipments, and you are telling the story you want to tell. Visually, the cinematographer is working a lot. The director is giving the guidance, the producer sometimes giving the input, and all these people, they are bringing a lot to the entire process. And the dynamics of shooting, if I talk about the dynamics of shooting, when you are shooting a film, a lot of things are happening. As I keep mentioning these things, the dynamics of shooting and how it is affecting you, how you are controlling the dynamics of shooting, how you are taking decisions in a great manner, because generally we do that. We are so immersed in the process. We are continuously thinking about problem solving, how we can do this thing in a better way, how we can arrange the things in a different way so that we will achieve what we want to achieve in terms of the film or the story, and how it is represented visually. So an actor and the director, they can have lofty dreams, they can have lofty goals they want to achieve, but it is a good thing to have. When you are talking about cinema, when you are talking about filmmaking, when you are talking about movies, we are creating a world or we are shooting something from the real world, you should have a lofty goal. And yesterday we did a session, a board session, which is regarding VFX, cinematography, chroma key, and all these things. So sometimes, people get bored with the mundane life they are looking at each and every day. They are going through the life, mundane life each and every day. For many, it's a mundane life. But cinema can give them hope. Cinema can give them entertainment. Cinema can give them something, they can look up to. So it can transport them to a different world. So cinema is giving us the opportunity where we have a script which is based on fantasy, which is based on some characters which people may relate, but they are not the characters they will see when they walk around the streets wearing those costumes and all these things. But they can still relate to the characters, somehow. But that relatability is a big deal when you are telling a story. But so many things are happening, entertainment, transporting to a different world. So we have the opportunity, when we have the script, we are creating this world, and then visually we are representing that world, through all these visual techniques, visual character, we are giving visual characteristics and all these things. When the entire thing is happening, we are creating a world, we are showing something from the real world, and people are looking at the screen And cinema used to be a great thing for many people, For some people, it used to be a relief, from this mundane life. But what I'm talking about is, or what I want to emphasize on is, cinema means a lot. So when we are creating this world, when we want to create this entire diegetic world or this cinematic world on screen, some people are focusing more on VFX, some people are focusing more on, additional techniques, CGI and whatever. Some people are doing it through animation, creating everything from scratch, building the characters, storyline and everything. How the little movements will happen, how we will create the characters, how they will be a part of great storytelling. So all these things are happening. But cinematography, through the use of camera, through these visual techniques, creative techniques, finally when you see something on screen, you are looking at the movie. Now that movie can be showing you poetry, it can be showing you a philosophical cinematic moment. So these are the things we feel, our feelings and emotions, and we feel them. And people who are creating it, they should also feel it, and then we will feel it. It is like that. And again, when you work the scene because the actors are trying to be part of a great movie, a great experience. And when the final movie is there on screen, they are proud of being part of that screen. And that is also related to their stardom when they are big stars. So the cinematographer is solving a lot of problems. The art director is solving a lot of problems, and they are bringing it to life. Those characters, that script, that entire world. So they are working on the scenes, and they are working on the performances, how they are lighting the performances, how they are staging and blocking, how they are, doing the movements, all these things. The entire thing is coming together to tell the story. You have the physical space, you have the visual space, and we are working the scene. Now then also the decisions will come, as I keep mentioning, while the shoot you are doing all these things. So you are just capturing the dailies and the rushes, and you are having them. Then maybe a few things you are doing in editing and you are good to go. Or you are doing it during post-production. So you have shot what you needed to shoot, and then you are depending on other techniques so that you can give it the final representation of that final story, how it will look visually. And sometimes when you do the camera work or cinematography in a tricky way or in a creative way, the camera will become a character and you will not realize it. Sometimes in a movie, you are looking at the visuals, you are mesmerized by the visuals, stunning visuals, you are moved by the visuals, and the camera will become a character if you do it really creatively. And again, white balance. When you play with any camera nowadays, white balance is an option many cameras are having. So you can choose one or another, but the thing you can play with while doing, the temperature, color temperature or white balance, what you can do is, what effect that white balance will have if you are shooting a particular frame, a particular, still picture. If you are showing a particular frame, how white balance is affecting that. If you are going for a video, how white balance is affecting that. The mood of the scene, how it is looking, visually. How you are, again, showing poetry, philosophy, the brush, art through camera, and white balance is playing a big role. How it is creating that thing, the visual character or the mood of the film. So lights, if I talk about three basic lights, the key light is the main light many people use, to give character to the scene. Suppose you are lighting one light from here and it is half lit, it is lighting this part of the face and this part is in the shadow. That light is creating the shadow and this part is inside the shadow. Then you need to feel the shadow. When you need to feel the shadow, there is one light called fill light. And you are lowering the contrast. Obviously, when you are using that one light source, directional lighting. So 3-point lighting, you play with the directions, you play with the angles. So directional lighting, when you are doing this with the key light, you are having the shadow. Now you need to feel the shadow if you need to feel the shadow. Sometimes people are using less harsh key light or maybe more diffused or softer key light, so the shadows are not that that prominent. But if you have a stark shadow, then you need to fill the shadow and you need to lower the contrast. You are using the fill light. Backlight is the light that is separating people from the background, and that is a big thing. Many people ignore that. When you are separating people from the background, that is the backlight, and there are variations for that. Now, one thing, when you are using the color, obviously you have the color differences so that people can separate you from the background. But when you are doing it in black and white, you have the shades of gray, you have a lot of highlights, midtones and shadows, and how you will play with it. So you are separating things from the background, whatever you have, people, subject, the things you want to show, separating those things from background. You have the backlight, generally behind the subject, in line with the lens. And variations, rim light, hair light, kicker, liner, glow light, as I keep mentioning, and all these things. And white balance, when I talk about white balance, you are playing with the color temperature. So lights, Fresnel lights, quartz lights, incandescent lights, HMI, PAR, all these things. When you study more, you will see the color temperature in this, how you are getting a particular light, and if you require that particular light for that particular scene, how you are using the light sources to have that mood, to have that visual character and all these things. So white balance, you have the knowledge of white balance, you have the knowledge of color temperature, and you can play with it a lot. When you know more about the lights, the accessories, the equipments, and what it is doing to to the scene, or to light the scene, or to have that particular mood for that scene, you can play with all these things. For accessories and filters, neutral density filters, polarizers, 85, 81, gels, reflectors, you can use all these things. Reflectors also, golden and silver ones. You can use different clothes, to diffuse the light. You can use the walls to diffuse the lights, bounce the lights. You can use all these things. Then, gobos and all these things are there, accessories. And key light, fill light, backlight. I talked about 3-point lighting, 3 basic lights people talk about. Then you can do additive lighting. You can add more lights. You can subtract more lights to achieve something for that particular scene. And then positive, negative lighting, all these things. But these lighting directions, angles, intensity, color, all these things, these are also giving you the palette of a cinematographer. You are playing with color, you have a palette. You are playing with lights, you have a palette. Then all these things are working together, to give you what you want to achieve. So that is what we are talking about. You want to achieve poetry visually. When we are talking about cinematography here, we are talking about visually. Now, visually, it is not just the job or the solitary job of the cinematographer. Playing a big part. Sometimes they have to do the thing alone, because many people are not even understanding it, but they understand it so much. People are also trusting them to do the work. There are things like that. So different working conditions, different situations, and you act accordingly. And sometimes the director knows a lot, and they can communicate with the cinematographer, so they both can come up with stunning visuals and great storytelling. And art directors are playing significant roles in that too. So all of them are coming together. But cinematographer should know about the technical aspects, so they are working a lot about all these things. And they have a team of people who are working on the technical aspects, and they can guide them what they are wanting to achieve. So again, these visuals we are getting, we are talking from a broad level, because poetry, philosophy, what we want to achieve regarding the visuals, regarding the story, sometimes regarding a particular scene. If I break down the entire story arc to different scenes, this is the thing we are requiring for this particular scene. This is the thing we are requiring for this particular movie, and how all these things are playing together, And from the script to the film, that is also a big deal, because you are interpreting and then you are creating this world on screen, and you are telling the story visually. But these are the lights you have, these are the equipments you have, accessories you have. Then white balance. And then if I talk about the science of it, physics and science, if I talk about that, and technology, all these things are important, because whenever you are working with reflector, reflection, refraction, diffusion, filters, then white balance, color, temperature, then your accessories and equipments, whatever you do, polarizer, neutral density filters, and other accessories or equipments, physics, science, all these things are happening. Maybe you don't know much about this particular thing, but you have used the technology so much, you can tell that this, if I use the technology, I will achieve this. Physics and science, when we talk about the lights, when we talk about light itself, electromagnetic wave, sound, then, accessories and equipments and all these things, we are obviously talking about physics and science. So you can understand all these things and you can get the color, temperature, because there we are talking about physics as well. Amplitude, wavelength, then your how one light is going through this material. If I talk about this diffusion, reflection, refractor, and how you are using the clothes and what it is doing, and then the light beams and all these things, angle of light. So if I talk about all these things in detail, there is physics, there is science, and many people study physics and science, then they go to cinematography, so that they can focus more on the technical aspects. So they can relate the physics, the science, and the technical aspects. Sometimes people play with the technical aspects, and then they are achieving what they want to achieve through using that particular technical equipment or accessories, and they know how it will feel like when they achieve that visually. So they are more practical oriented, means they want to play with all these things and they want to achieve something. Occasionally they may go back to the science and physics, and they can still learn more, because why it is happening, what is the thing behind it, they can go with that curiosity, and they can study more. Sometimes people are well aware of the theoretical aspects, but they don't know how to play technically using all these things to achieve something visually. So somewhere you strike a balance, and somewhere that I know about the physics and science, and if it is needed, I can go for some innovation, I can go for whatever is required to achieve something very particular. But basically we know about the accessories, equipments, the technical things, and then we are achieving poetry, philosophy visually, the brush, the art, and each frame a painting, and we can achieve all these things. So you choose how you want to make your movie. You choose how you want to show it visually. You choose how you want to work with your directors, how you want to work with the team, and how you can take responsibility to make the movie look visually very stunning, so that people will be drawn towards it visually. And also we have a responsibility towards storytelling. So actor, director, they will love to tell the story, but the technical people, they can come up with a lot of things, and with collaboration we can achieve something really great. But sometimes you will also see that some cinematographers become directors, or people who are directors, they are drawn towards cinematography more. And sometimes the camera is something we can relate to cinema, because we are capturing the scene with the camera. And then it can be a small camera, then it can be a bigger camera, it can be two equipments, it can be two accessories, it can be a lot of accessories. But ultimately we are telling the story visually on screen. So we have a lot more things to experiment with. We have people who are adept with their work. They have a lot of skills, and they are really experts in what they do. So they can bring their wisdom, they can bring their knowledge, they can bring their technical expertise. And sometimes we argue, sometimes we listen to each other, sometimes we get moved by each other's opinions. But ultimately that story, when it is on screen, how we are telling the story, and what impact it is having on the audience.